Good morning, boatingbanner.com fans. Here's Captain Larry again. Chapter 11. Today we're gonna start, finally. We've got everything disassembled. I'm waiting for my wood. The wood has not shown today, but what I did think I'd start doing is to take this in stages. Let's work on the seat first, then we'll do the backrest, which will also help you with backrest like in the cockpit area. So we'll do this backrest, and then we'll do the sun deck backrest combination, and then the net chapter after that we'll do the headrests, and then chapter after that we'll assemble everything and we'll have our project done. So we have like another 4 or 5 chapters to go here. But I thought today be a little longer because I want to show you the material I'm going to be using that has arrived, or I already had it. So let's just go through it quickly here. This is the item we're going to use to cover up the staples on the very bottom of all our projects. I had this left over. It's kind of, they call it a chalk color. I got this from, again, I got this from sailrite.com. So you'll need that. This I also had left over. This is our going to be for our piping core. They call it a foam core. Very inexpensive. I had bought several projects ago. I just bought a whole bunch of it. I was buying small ones. What the heck? I might as well just buy it. You get a little cheaper if you get the big runs. So I got the big runs for that. So that will be a lot of piping to do, as you know. So we'll be doing a lot of that. Let me hold on to that. We'll be using these staples here. They're a 1/2 inch stainless. They fit in my easy staple gun that I showed you the other chapter. I think it was chapter 2 or 1 or 2. And these are beautiful. I have a little trouble with them in plastic bases. So they don't want to go in real well. So that's something I'm going to be looking at in the future. My next plastic thing is maybe going down to a little smaller one. I noticed cobalt is a big one for that. Great not having the wood in there, but it makes it a little harder to do. But these are cheap too, kind of 10,000. I don't know when I'll ever go through all of them, even though you use a lot of staples. But Sailrite, again, I got these 1/2 inch stainless. Now, if you saw my material chapter, I have an experiment going, still up there, on thread. I've been doing a lot of research because I've noticed that most of my projects people are bringing me have a lot more to do with the separation of seams than pour vinyl. Now this one here, you can see obviously needed the vinyl cracked on the guy. We got a few pieces here and we got a big hole here. So this vinyl was in bad shape, but you'll notice the seams are quite good. So anyway, whatever thread they used on this one we're impressed with. So I want to bring you up to date on this. This is a V92 white thread that I'm going to use for this project. Now this is the bonded polyester, not the Tenera product. The bonded polyester is from A&E thread. I bought this from sailrite.com, I believe I bought this from. Very inexpensive. Again, it was like $10, $11 a spool, and it's got a tremendous amount of feet on there. So it's actually 1,340 yards. So that's a lot of thread. So you'll be able to use this for a long time. And it's only 10% of the cost of Tenera. And I will be coming up with that conclusion of that thread test that we're doing, but it's going to be quite a ways off. I've been doing a lot of research, and it's come to find out that, I mean, these threads are lasting as well as the Tenera product. So I've really improved my opinion on them and have no qualms about using them for my projects now. They are very stable to bleach and acids. Pretty stable. They have a coating for UV rays, which seems to be the #1 problem. It's going to get these, and they're a little more susceptible to lye-based products, high pH products. So I've been checking all the formulas for the Fantastic and the 409s and McGuire's and all that, trying to find out obviously the lower pH we can get, more neutral, like, you know, if we can get a 7 or a 7.8 or maybe a 6 or something like that. They'll be a lot easier on the thread. So anyway, that project is not done yet, but as just a quick update, these bonded polyester are doing fine, thank you. There's not a drop off yet, so very impressed. Now, I showed you the backrest. One positive you do when you reupholster is this is the wood that was on that backrest, and it's trashed, all warped, split, half-inch plywood. But anyway, the point of my point here is the fact that when you build them, I having the guy do it. I said, you know, build these a little bit better. These are only tacked in. I don't know if you can see them. Just stapled with no glue. So they just came apart, and with a little bit of water and stress on them, they're junk. So obviously we're going to replace all of these. But anyway, when you redo, you can do a little better job. These should have been glued and screwed, and that would have been a lot nicer product. But anyway, I guess try to be cheap. And again, this is the foam. We have saved all the foam. Unfortunately, my friend couldn't find his 4th headrest. So I've got 3 good pieces of foam. They're in very good shape, very springy, so I'm going to have to build the 4th one. And as you can see, it's going to be a toughie. But positive note, we'll do a foam project in this project also, so I think that will be good for the teaching. I'm going to use, this is the foam I'm going to use. We're obviously going to have to cut it out, and this again, you see these things taper to a point where we obviously have a square. So we're going to have to cut pretty sharp line there to get the contour, because we have the contoured sides also. They use 2 pieces. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a bonded there. I'm going to try to just wrap this over and see if that works. If it doesn't work, then I will cut it and then glue it together. I'll show you how to do that, but I'm going to try to wrap it over the headrest, and then you have to bevel all the sides, like I say, to get the shape. But this is the foam I had left over, and since we only have to make one, that should work out pretty well. This is the vinyl I'm going to use. Now I got this, came out Rochford Supply, which I've shown you in the past. This is their smoky white. What I found in this, in color matching, my sister helped me, but when you get used vinyl like this, as it ages, it gets this gray, dirty tinge to it. And since we're only going to do these pieces and the rest of the boat is still in the original vinyl, we got to kind of come as close as we can to that dirty vinyl look. This is called Smoky White. I bought it from Rochford Supply. I bought quite a few. The reason I bought a lot more than I needed was that this is like the 4th time I bought this. It really works well for if your boat was originally a white vinyl. It works really good duplicating an aged vinyl. There's some whites that just go with the bright whites, which really will look weird. Then there's the 2 other kinds. It's kind of a yellow tinged white. I guess some would fade that way. I don't know. I've never seen that yet, but I noticed that in the samples. And then this is a gray, kind of a gray white. And again, what I say, it kind of duplicates, not exactly of course, but kind of duplicates a dirty vinyl. So anyway, and this cost me another thing you got to watch out for Rochford. I buy a lot from them, but they charged me like $20-something for the. They only ship FedEx, so it comes quick, but that's a lot of money to pay for the vinyl shipping. For example, so that $20-something for, I think I got 5 yards. I got 5 yards of the backing we're going to use from Sailrite, And I only paid like $7.50 UPS with this thing, and it came a day later. So anyway, this one with the freight in there turned out to be $16 a running yard, and this is 54 inches, as is this for the both 54 inches wide, and they charge you by the running yard. And like I say, and this, I think the backing came to $6 or something like that with the freight. And then finally we'll be using my good old friend, the batting. This is I think this is 1/2 inch. I got this also from Rochford. The prices compared to sailrite.com, for example, are quite lower. And but again, you really got to factor in the freight and make sure you're getting a good deal there, because a lot of people have the same kind of batting, and you really need it. Like I said, we'll use this for almost everything to puff up our foam, and also around our corners off a little bit. It's good for protecting the vinyl. So this is we got all of our stuff now, so we're ready to go. Let me get this out of the way. Okay. Now the first step, after obviously taking the thing apart off the wood and taking the foam off and all that, you just have what you have left is the vinyl. This one has scrim in the bottom too, because of this. But this is where we go. And again, make sure you check and you get all the pieces right. Everything's marked the way you want it. And what I do is I go back to the seam. They did kind of a funny, funky seam there. I don't know exactly what that's all about. But anyway, we will cut up, and I'm going to cut through the piping there, and so I have my first piece. So I'll be separating the boxing, but with the piping on the boxing portion. This is right where the seam was, where the boxing finished. So I just take it in here and try to cut right along that line. See that? What we're trying to do is show, for our tracing, the part that will be showing on our finished product. So that's the important thing, obviously. And the thread under here, which is simply the seam allowance, you don't have to worry about that, because you can make a seam allowance whatever you want. So I usually use a 1/4 to a 1/2, depending on what kind of sewing seam I'm making. If I need more or a little less. If I got a real difficult corner or something like that, I may put a little bit more on. But as I said before, square measurements are so important to make a nice sewing experience, and ultimately, of course, a nice finished product. So some of this is easy when you don't have that scrim under there. Others are a little harder. Again, you need a good pair of shears here. Okay, here we go. We're getting there. Someone asked me about how fast it is to disassemble a product. And it really, you saw in my previous video, it goes quickly. And if you really want to go fast, is you don't worry about the staples. My first disassembly of a sun deck backrest combination on a 22-foot boat. It was huge. It took me 3.5 hours. And the reason it took me so long was it was my first one, and I took every single staple out one at a time. I loosened it up with a pry tool, and then I take my little needle nose pliers and take the staple out and throw it away and go to my next one. I did it worth watching a football game, actually. So it wasn't that bad, but 3.5 hours. You don't have to do it that way if you don't want to. It's the neatest way, but all you got to do is rip those 3/4 of the way out or so, and then just pull. They all come out, and 95% of them will stay in the vinyl, so don't have to worry about that. And let's get this done here. It's a little tougher than I thought it was going to be. There. Okay. The other thing on measuring, see, this is one of the measures you don't have to worry about. And like I say, why you don't really have to take out the staples if you don't want to. This is where you staple it under the wood. So this measurement here is really irrelevant. So you can, what I do rather than trying to trace these, I just measure them. So let's say this, I don't know what it's, 4 or 5 inches. Let's say it's 5 inches. But you can make it 6 inches or 7 inches, because all of this, after you staple, you're going to cut it off anyway. So rather than trying to trace this thing, or even take out the staples if you don't want to, just measure it. So, okay, this is 6 inches. So I'll put another inch on there just for jollies. It doesn't make any difference because you're going to be cutting it off. And pop, you're done. And there we go. Now we got the boxing and the outside piping off. Piping will just measure. Obviously, the piping measurement will be exactly the same as the boxing measurement. Okay, and now we just simply take these, cut them into normal pieces here. I'm going to leave the the piping on the plate, that plate there. Go. Okay, there's one plate, the scrim wavy plate, and then the last plate on the other side. Now these I will trace. Now I'll trace exactly the size that I want. Remember, all we need to do now, since we're basically cutting off the seam allowance, is cut, transfer this onto my vinyl, and then just add whatever seam allowance you want. It's going to be a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, or whatever, on all sides. There we go. Okay, now these are the pieces that we'll be working with. Okay, so we have 3 plates. We have the piping that we're going to sew onto the inside of both of those plates with this, and this one here will be all done in one piece. This is the center, and we'll be tracing this, and then I'm going to be sewing on the top side here, which is a little unusual. Usually do the other way around, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure these. Even these, you can see, aren't exactly all the same. Look at how much smaller those are. But anyway, I'm going to measure these distance. Like I said, I want to leave a little extra here, because every time I run a sewing seam down, it's going to shrink like a 1/4 inch or so. So if we put 2 or 3 inches on the outside here, we'll sew down these. I'm going to draw with a grease pencil these lines, and I'll sew down the lines with the scrim on the back. We'll sew them down, and then we'll start in the center, and we'll work our way out until we get to this one here, and then we'll have it done. And of course it will be bigger than we need, and so then we'll just trim off the excess. So we're all set. So our next, this is chapter 11 of chapter 12. We'll get sewing on this thing and hopefully be able to mount it. Take care. We'll see you in a bit.